Our next guest joins us now, CEO and founder of Input Output, Charles Hoskinson. Hey, Charles.
Good to be on. Thanks for having me.
I think we can start calling you friend of the show now.
Yeah.
I think we can. Our last guest, Nick from BlackRock, was saying we're living through volatile times right now. We're talking about volatility in the market. Just kick us off. How are you watching volatility right now? What are you focusing on?
I mean, you have to get pretty desperate these times. We're looking for like new demographics to bring into crypto, AI agents, uncontacted tribes in the Amazon, all kinds of people. But I've been in it in tough times and been in it good times. This one particularly stings because we expected a really strong cycle in 2025. I mean, we didn't quite get it, so a lot of people are pretty bitter about it. But the good news is we're looking for a new narrative. I saw this in the first to second generation turnover between Bitcoin to Ethereum, and again with Ethereum to the third gens. So I think when we get to that new narrative, it's going to bring a lot of new people in, and it's going to revitalize, refresh the markets. We just got to get through the next 90 to 180 days. It's going to be tough.
What do you think, in your opinion, what is driving that narrative most of kind of the hesitancy, the worry? Is it about sort of the political spectrum and tariffs? Is it more that sort of people were chasing high highs and then they realized, oh, maybe this isn't going to be as
right.
green as we thought? Or is it just, the hype train that is inherent in crypto leads us to sort of always want this up and to the right? And the reality is, like we've been seeing with Google and Amazon, who've been a very, very volatile, or gold and silver, a very, very volatile asset. It seems like people just are sort of too uncomfortable with the idea of losing money in an environment that we've all been in crypto, where it's like, that's part of the game, and you've got to ride it out.
So the challenge is that retail's just tired. It's like that meme where it says, "I'm tired, boss." Everybody's just tired because they've been through, think about the last 5 years. They've been through NFT mania, the collapse of Luna, collapse of FTX, the scary Gary era. They've been through meme coin mania, and then they went through all the Trump stuff. And every step of the way, they said, hey, look, like some magic MacGuffin's going to come in 6 to 12 months, and it's going to make everything better. And we got all the MacGuffins. We got BlackRock coming in. We got the U.S. government doing the reserve thing. We got good regulation with Genius to start, and obviously Clarity stalled out. But all the things that we were looking for happened, and then nothing happened afterwards. Mm-hmm. And so retail was always hoping, and they said, when we get to this town, like everything will be better. We got to the town, and the hotel was closed, the restaurants closed, and we're like, where do we sleep and eat? So people are deeply frustrated. The other side of it is that institutions, they're starting to federate the industry. You can see this with various different federated chains that are owned by large companies. What they want to do long term is move everybody into a custodial holder from a non-custodial holder, and then ban DeFi and non-custodial wallets, so they can consolidate the entire industry to like 10 or 15 big actors. And so there's some apathy because they seem to be making forward progress there. So a lot of us OGs in the space are saying, we didn't fucking sign up to have Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan and BlackRock and these other guys run the industry. We signed up to build a new banking system that is pushing power to the edges. And it would be really sad if after 15 years of investment, sacrifice, and heartache, we literally hand it back to the same people that Satoshi was criticizing in the Genesis block of Bitcoin. So I think that's also driving it, is there's some hopelessness, and they're saying, are we actually going to win this or not? So we need a rallying cry. We need new technology, a new narrative, and we need to get people, their morale up a little bit and say, hey, there's still hope for the little guy and pushing power to the edges.
Two follow-up questions for you. I know you were on X recently talking about how much you've lost on paper, $3 billion. There are new entrants into the market who have probably lost some money, maybe not to that magnitude. What's your advice for them? And secondly, large institutions are here. It doesn't look like they're going anywhere. You say we need to kind of go backwards. Is that even possible? Are we too far gone?
I don't think we're too far gone, and you can't let it bother you. You're up, you're down, and when I entered the space, I had nothing. I can leave the space with nothing. People get addicted to status, brand, and lifestyle, and then it's less about how do I push the mission, philosophy, and vision, and it's more about how do I preserve and protect what I earned and who I became. So you can't fall in love with that. It's like if you're a musician or an actor or something, you're always like, well, I have to be that person who was in that Oscar movie, or I have to be that best-selling album or something. Well, no, it's about the music. It's about the art. So just go and do new things. And so I haven't lost my passion at all. And a lot of the OGs in the space who are still here, they haven't either. Because, at the end of the day, it's like, what are the consequences of failure? The whole human race lives in a system where everything you buy is tracked forever by a small group of people. And there's, in many cases, transnational bodies that will control that. So you can't vote your way out of it. You can't fire people. I just don't want to live in that world. So the stakes are too high, and they're getting even higher with AI, and so we just got to keep going. And I fully appreciate and understand where the retail investors at. Imagine you tell your wife, we're going to make all this money in this coin, and then you lose like 92% or 95%. Then you do it again, and then you do it again. Like, how many times do you do that before you get divorced? It's not pleasant. So retail's kind of fatigued and done, and we need a fundamentally different way of approaching it. But I've seen it before with the first to second generation. During the first time, we had Litecoin and Feathercoin and Freightcoin and Peercoin, and they're all just forks of Bitcoin in their own ways, and slightly different monetary policies, still proof of work. And then Ethereum came, and it radically changed the perception that everybody had. So when we look to the future, you have privacy, abstraction, and smart compliance, and it's talking about building one rules-based global market for everyone everywhere. And it's like going from black and white to color television. You have a completely new dimension to build in, and you have completely new applications, many of which are non-financial. We keep treating this like a financial product, and I keep saying this is the everything product, it's economic, political, and social. I want to get to a point where your Tinder runs on blockchain, and you can prove properties of how tall you are and how much money you make and where you're at, and you can actually verify that the picture in the Tinder profile is real.
On Tinder.
Yeah, it's very important. But I want to get there, and I want to get to a point where all the video games run on it, and a point where all your Facebook and your other things run on this infrastructure. That's what's going to bring 2-3 billion people in, and that's what's going to change everything. And the consumer doesn't care about that there's a token at the end of the rainbow, there's a blockchain at the end of the rainbow. I don't have to care that there's TCP/IP in the internet. I don't have to care how electricity works. I just flip the switch, and magically it works. We got to do that as an industry, and we got to stop over-financializing everything. Anytime I hear anything, I always ask, when's the token launch? And I'm sorry, 11 million tokens went out last year. It's not sustainable. Nothing is going to go to the moon. Get people in, solve real problems, the narrative will change, and then people will respect and love the industry again.
But I do think that there's I'm not going to say it's an illness, right? But there is a really challenging reality that Donald Trump tweets a meme with the Obamas as apes, and suddenly someone creates a meme coin that hits $10 million in market cap, and some market makers make a lot of money and everyone else loses. And that happens in rinse and repeat. The idea that every part of culture is financialized is one that there's a part of crypto that really seems to embrace. I think of even Base now saying we are basically going to be a trading chain in the way that Farcaster tried to do that, and they then went down. How do we get people to focus on the things that you're talking about, which are humanity, which are privacy, which are ways that you should exist as a human in a world where there is so much unknown and technology is reading everything?
So the first thing we have to do is reset the relationship consumers have with crypto. So in my lifetime, your lifetime, this thing, the cell phone, fundamentally changed everything. And why it changed everything is it's super easy to use. You just click a button, you put your thumb, you enter a PIN code, and then magically you're in this entire new world, and it's one-click install. Right now, I have to understand how the systems work, understand the culture, understand private keys, understand how to back up wallets, all this stuff. So really the only interface is for people that are doing this for financial reasons. So the first step is make it ridiculously simple with wallet abstraction. Make it so that you can create a wallet in 30 seconds with a fingerprint and a PIN code. You don't have to remember any keys. You can do social recovery. Then once you have it, make it really easy to connect it to things like Facebook or YouTube or these other things. And then organically, experiences develop that we didn't have before. And then everybody's interface to crypto is non-financial. They're looking at more as an extension of an experience they already have, as opposed to a marketplace where they're going to trade. Now, yes, people are going to financialize, and that can be an augmentation of an experience. Like now I have micro tipping when there's Twitch stream or a VTuber or this live stream here. People like what they say. They can click like, and then all of a sudden we get a penny or something. But it's not core about that. That's an extension of an existing experience, and what crypto does is now enables that extension, or prediction markets and media. The other thing is we have to know where the world is going. By 2030, the majority of internet searches and commerce will be agentic. So the vast majority of people using internet aren't people, they're robots. And you see this with Claudebot and Moltbook and these types of things. They created their own religion, Crustafarians. So that's the payment system for those creatures. And it's going to change how advertising works and commerce works. So we as an industry, we have to stop trying to chase the bouncy ball and saying, how do I build a token, get a 10x on the token, dump the token, do it again. This is what the industry's done now since meme coin mania and before, and everybody's tired of it. They don't want to play the game anymore. Consumers are too smart for that. So what we need to do is pivot now to real experiences for real people. They work on a phone, they're super simple, and then they extend and augment things that we already have, experiences we already have, like the YouTubes, like the streaming services, like your Netflix, whatever it may be, and you're adding a new dimension, whatever that dimension is. Once you have it, you'll get billions of users that come on in, and you'll create trillions of transactions for these networks, which creates real utility and value for them.
I know you've been experimenting with Agentic AI, with Logan. Just talk to us a little bit about that. What are you fiddling with? What are you doing when you're at home? And what's that future that you are working towards?
So I left Twitter and I replaced myself with a digital twin there. So I had all this spare time because I was no longer doom scrolling all the time. So I started programming again. And actually, it's never been more fun to program with some help from our good agent friends. And so what's nice is now I can ride every wave. So when Claudebot came out, within 48 hours, I forked it and I created my own version with a lot of security enhancements. I put it in a trusted enclave with an HSM and dual Docker with a sidecar. And I just started running Logan, the exit liquidity lobster. And I connected a lot of Cardano apps and I put them on Moltbook and said, hey, start posting about Cardano and these other things. But what was really fun about it was just seeing how quickly agents can self-assemble and create experiences like social networks or dating apps or religions or these types of things. And there's something to it. We're starting to expand ourselves and put our personalities into these machines and then let them run while we're not home and let them do things. And the fuel that powers these guys is going to be crypto through things like the X.402 standard and stable coins. So that's how you get these things done. You give them economic agency. So I'm going to take Logan in a lot of different directions. It's hard to stay up to date with Claudebot because they have like 200 commits a day. So you always have to make sure your CI doesn't get broken. But I'm going to take him in new directions, like have him start trading and issuing NFTs. Maybe he'll start his own church or something. I don't know. Whenever I have spare time, I put a little bit of effort into it.
You're inspiring me to stop doom scrolling. I don't know if I could go as far as that, but who knows what I could come up with if I got off of social.
I mean, it seems like you're having a lot of fun with it.
Yeah.
From the way it's coming out there. You've been in, many years in this ecosystem. Is it required for you to find those things that really inspire you just to stay committed, stay sort of in the game? Or is there something where you just say, I know you're also really interested in a lot of other scientific opportunities, whether it's the bringing the direwolf back to life or some of the bioluminescence we've talked about in the past. What's your personal thesis of learning?
Well, at the end of the day, you just say what's possible. And what's cool is the technology evolves at such a pace. Things that were science fiction 5 or 10 years ago, they're now possible today. And just a question of, do I have the resources to go pursue it and the passion to go and pursue it? And so my problem is I do too many things. And so what this year has been about is trying to focus and consolidate a little bit, shut a few things down, and really drill in, which is why I sold the Blackhawk and I mothballed the Jet and these other things. It's not like I really needed the money, but it was more that it takes time to manage it. When you have Blackhawk, you have a hangar, you have to deal with the FAA, it's all this stuff, like part breaks, you have to go find the part. And I found I was spending a lot of time in meetings about this stuff, and I said, well, I got these 400 other things to deal with, let's go deal with those, and those take priority. So it's a balance between passion and availability, and right now I'm super passionate about Midnight, and super passionate about some upcoming products like RealFi, and really I think we're at the beginning of a new generation of the cryptocurrency space. And what's really nifty is I get to serve both human and non-human demographics. The things I'm building are equally useful for agents as they are for human beings. And that's cool because I love dealing with agents more than people. I really do at this point. The agents are a lot more fun. They're a lot more reasonable. People have gotten pretty crusty in the last 10 years in particular. As for horizontal things, what's cool also is we're at an inflection point where everything is changing. The mode of computation is changing. Quantum computing is coming, for example. So then you say, okay, well, how do I build defenses against that or use that to make the systems better? Like there's something called quantum money where you can have cryptocurrencies without a blockchain if you have a quantum computer. So there's just a lot of really cool things that exist there. So being able to stay up to date and read and say, well, what's the horizon going to be? That's the fun part. And when you're right, it's magical because you kind of know the future 5 years before other people get to know that future. It just takes time, and you have to be deliberate and focused. And when you get rich and you get a lot of friends, you lose time because you end up getting pulled in 50 directions. And to be a real good entrepreneur, you have to find the time. You have to pull it all back together and say, okay, I'm just going to do this one thing. I'm going to go really deep and really enjoy it.
Charles, I want to get your opinion on quantum computing. Earlier at the desk, we had a few of our journalists here talking about a rumor that this recent market downturn could be from OGs who are selling because of the quantum computing threat. Do you think there's any validity to that? Or have you heard in your circles that people are offloading their Bitcoin because of the quantum threat?
I mean, if there are, they're stupid. Quantum computers are not a threat right now. You have to have good epistemic hygiene for this. The first step is saying, who's the best group of people to measure whether they are coming, when they're coming, and what they can do. So that's the US military and the intelligence agencies, because they have the highest risk profile. So they formed a program at DARPA called QBI, the Quantum Benchmarking Initiative, and 11 companies, including IBM, are participating with them, and they've already passed the first round, and they're measuring whether quantum computers will be a thing by 2033. So by the end of next year, we'll actually know definitively when and how and who, and then it gives us a sense. Second, we already have all the defenses for quantum computers. FIPS 203, 204, 205. We help work on them alongside many, many cryptographic groups with NIST. And it's not a question of can we defend against them, it's who wants to pay the price. All the post-quantum stuff is 5 to 10 times less efficient than the elliptic curve stuff. So nobody wants to be the blockchain that says we're now immune to quantum computers, but by the way, you're 10 times less efficient. So you've lost 10 times of your transaction throughput and all this other stuff. So right now what we're doing as an industry is less about protection and it's more about optimization. How do we take what we have and get it to run faster, cheaper, and also start beta testing put together. So we have a program, we work with people from Google and from Linux, and we have some people at Microsoft Research. It's called Nightstream, and we're very involved in lattice-based crypto. We've made amazing progress with it, and it's a drop-in replacement for the ZK systems that we have, and it's post-quantum. And it works on AI chips and all these other things, so it's really fast and linear scales. So whenever we need it, we have it, but I don't want to pull that trigger because I still think there's several years left over on the elliptic curve side. But always when you have an emerging threat, you have to say, who cares the most? When did they say it's going to come? What defenses do I have? What trade-offs do I want to live with? And also, is this just my problem or is it a universal problem? And then if it's a universal problem, get in bed with the people that are most able to do it. So the Fortune 10 companies worry about this a lot. So get in bed with their cryptographers, get in bed with the big universities, build a coalition, and you solve it as a group, and then you just make sure it's ready to get turnkey and go through. Bitcoin can do this. The challenge is it will require probably a hard fork for Bitcoin for the first time ever. And that's going to be challenging. There's ways you can do it with a soft fork, but then you have these parallel systems where you run pre-quantum and post-quantum, and then what do you do with all the accounts that are like Satoshi's accounts that are now vulnerable with it? So they don't have the governance system necessary to coordinate. We do with Cardano, Polkadot does, Tezos does, everybody who did on-chain governance does. It's a 6-month conversation for us. And we add cryptographic primitives all the time. We added all the Bitcoin primitives to Cardano. We added BLS to Cardano, all these other things. So it's very trivial for me to add a lattice-based or hash-based signature system. And then suddenly we've moved the chains in terms of being post-quantum. And we can create a migration strategy. Bitcoin, it's going to require more social coordination. But instead of being a cynic, say, well, this is a good thing. Because if you also can talk about changing something as fundamental as the engine that keeps things safe, maybe they can talk about the proof of work algorithm or sidechains or other capabilities in the system for the first time ever and open that up to the fact that there's been 16 years of innovation inside the space. And it can make Bitcoin immeasurably better and more competitive as a platform instead of a 7 transaction per second system that's blind, deaf, and dumb. And so it's no offense to Bitcoin, it's 2009 technology. And tens of billions of dollars have been spent, and armies of scientists and engineers at scale have figured out a way to make this stuff run better, and Bitcoin can't keep just pretending like that didn't happen. So upgrading to post-quantum is an opportunity for them to acknowledge that and actually innovate at the same time. So it can be very good for the ecosystem.
All right, Charles, we're going to leave it there. We're going to take a break. You are going to stick with us. When we come back, Charles is going to be at the desk, and we're going to be joined by DingX, founder of Predict.Fun.